After 7 months, ISIS has lost its control of Ramadi in Iraq. That victory came after a fierce 6-day fight.
Progress, though, has been slowed by snipers and booby traps. CBS News Foreign Affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan joins us now, live right here. We don't get to see you face-to-face very often, Margaret.
It's good to be up here.
But let's talk about this. How significant is the retaking of Ramadi?
Well, this is significant for a few reasons. This city is about 60 miles west of Baghdad. It's kind of more central Iraq. And this was very fierce door-to-door fighting. Remember that the U.S. support is from the air only. What we are also doing is helping to train Iraqi forces. So this was a win for the Iraqis that they can say they did themselves. They did it really with door-to-door combat there. So the announcement overnight was that they retook the government center there. There are still some pockets of resistance. And what they're trying to do is clear out what are expected to be a lot of booby-trapped, mined roads and buildings here. And that's why we say it's door-to-door fighting. It's really looking to see over 7 months what kind of bombs has ISIS laid in there, IEDs and others.
Does it also serve to bolster the new government?
That's right.
And its legitimacy?
That's right. I mean, this is a significant win. Remember, we've all seen those videos of what happened over a year ago when you saw Iraqi forces fleeing and leaving behind American-made and gifted equipment. Now you see forces trained by the Americans who are going in and directly using those skills, and also police forces also going in here. It's not just the military. The Iraqi police have been retrained by the U.S. and its coalition allies. Some of the Italians actually have been building up the police. So this is going to be a shot in the arm for the government. And so much of this is about government propaganda on both sides, right? ISIS likes to talk about when it wins, its brutality, how it's retaken areas. This is important for the Iraqis to gain support and hold support, because you aren't seeing that same, Arab diplomats would tell you, you aren't seeing that same sense of immediacy on the ground in some of these areas by people who don't feel directly threatened. Now you might see with this symbolic win some nationalism as well.
So will the focus just stay on Ramadi and keeping it secure, or is the government already looking at their next move?
The government's looking at the next move. Strategically, Ramadi is important because it'll help to cut the supply lines to Fallujah, which many Americans remember as the city where a lot of U.S. forces, particularly Marines, died in the last war and engagement in Iraq. What's significant here is this is a step towards retaking Mosul, which is the ISIS stronghold in Iraq, and eventually the next line of attack will be Raqqa, which is the stronghold in Syria, and that is really ISIS's safe haven. So this is sort of knocking off another city on the way towards a bigger victory. And you saw with this tape recording that was just released from Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, some analysts would look at that and say, this isn't just about him rolling up the troops, it's him trying to get people to stay with him in the face of what is a significant defeat.
Because we don't hear from him very often. We've only heard from him a handful of times. And when I heard it, I thought, you know, he's trying to send a very clear message, and maybe it's a clear message in response to some of these significant losses.
He picks his moments, and analysts would say he picked this one particularly because he needs to build up a sense of strength and keep that sense that there's momentum on ISIS's side rather than on the side of Iraqi forces.
When you're looking at Syria, what kind of lessons have we learned from that fight as we look at this?
That's the toughest nut to crack here. I mean, American, Western officials would tell you this is really the piece of the puzzle that we haven't quite figured out yet. Iraq's important, but as long as ISIS fighters have safe haven over the border, which is in many ways an insignificant border, I mean, that's barely a line there any longer, then you can't ultimately defeat ISIS. You might be able to, at most, contain them. So they're still trying to figure out what that next line of attack is, but the focus so far, and you do now have special operators from the U.S. going into Syria to work with local groups, some of them Arab, some of them Kurdish, to try to start to build up and lay the groundwork for that next attack. Because the belief is this can't just be Kurdish fighters who have been some of the most successful. You need to see Sunni Arabs, particularly in Syria, go into Raqqa to be able to hold it and clean that out, since it is ISIS's headquarters.
All right, Margaret Brennan, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you.